Who's got the belt, baby?
What?
Who's got the belt? Right? Is that you?
The champ.
First of all, we had a tie. We had a tie, and then I think you won the last one.
I did. It was actually
Recency
a South Korean
bias.
word. Go figure, you know?
Yeah,
The recency bias champ. Recency bias champ, Charlie Davies. All right, here we go. So we're focusing on a word for the people who have the loudest fans in the stadium, the supporters groups, right?
Ooh,
so,
okay.
So yes, the ultras. It's a world of supporters group. So the word is that a supporters group. It is serero, which I cannot rolling my R's very well, but serero. So
Serero.
What language is this? Where is this word spoken?
Spain.
It's Spanish.
Jesse Marsch already hit it. He already got it, everybody.
I mean, please,
Serero.
please,
Serero.
Charlie.
Who came up with that
Charlie,
word?
have a seat.
Of course it's
Have
Spanish.
a seat, Charlie. Have a seat.
I mean, specifically, it's Galatian.
Galicia. It's out of Galicia.
Galicia. Okay, I got it.
I can't. I was set up on this one. Are you? Come on.
You said Spanish,
Wait,
but Jesse
what?
got that first.
What?
Hey, Jesse's the current champ,
senor.
everybody.
Sí, señor.
The
This
recency
is
bias
bien.
champ
This
is Jesse
is
Marsch.
incredible. What kind?
It was a pleasure, Charlie.
That's
It's been a
not a.
pleasure.
That's not a challenge.
Hey, don't. I'm
By
just
the way, that
messenger,
was
Charlie.
easy. That
I'm
was
just
the
a
easiest
messenger.
one.
That was by far the easiest one. I thought
Charlie
it
was
was.
definitely going to
I
answer
was punked.
Botswana, though.
I thought I was
coming with
punked.
Botswana.
Honestly, I was like, I'm getting punked.
All right. Des says that I have to. My producers throw me under the bus in the comments in our private chat, saying I needed to read more of the whatever. Jesse Marsch is the winner.
Thank
Lucky
you.
for you.
That,
All right,
that
let's
was
get into
that
it.
was not a good one.
Okay, here's the first one. Juventus versus AC Milan. Obviously, this is a big game, mainly to see who's going to finish second in Serie A because Inter Milan have already claimed the Scudetto for the 20th time. Congratulations to them. Timo Weah got the start over Weston McKennie, and he was playing the right wing back spot. And then Weston came in and it was a like-for-like replacement. And it was a big week for Timo Weah. He had an assist against Lazio in the Coppa Italia semifinal. They're going to play Atalanta in the final, so it'll be interesting to see who starts that one. McKennie doing well off the bench in both of those games. Christian Pulisic pretty quiet in this one. Looking forward to you guys' thoughts on that. And then the big thought was Yunus Musah starts at right back. And I really wanted to know what you guys were thinking. Yunus Musah got 82 minutes. He had 64 touches, 39 passes, and a pass percentage of 91%. Getting into the weeds here with the stats. But Jesse, I'm coming to you first. Your thoughts on all four of these players, and I want to hear your thoughts on Yunus Musah at right back.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here and a lot to talk about. All right, let's start with Yunus. Okay. When I saw that he was going to be playing right back, I thought that maybe Pioli was going to use him a little bit like he does Calabria at times, which is start defensively, play right back, but then rotate him into the middle, like one of the double midfielders, center midfielders in the sixth position. But he didn't really do that. He used him as a straight up right back. You know, I thought in general, I thought it was okay. He got beat once bad on the wing, and then they served a cross in, and I think it was Milik that almost got a header on it and almost scored a goal. He didn't look totally comfortable there. You know, I mean, I think what you always get with Musah is you always get an honest effort. He'll run. He'll try to tactically honor his responsibility. He'll play for the team. He'll try to do everything he can to help out on the day because he's just that kind of kid. He's a competitor, but he's also a team player. And in the end, you know, I mean, it was, I thought, a worthwhile effort, but I'm not sure that it really worked. And I think when I look at him comparatively and see him in the middle in an 8 or a 6, he looks much more comfortable, and I think he can play to his strengths a lot more.
Wait, Jesse, really quick though, do you feel like they were trying to do something that we're seeing being fashioned by Man City and Liverpool to use some big names where they bring the right back into a more central position?
Well, that's what I thought they would do.
Yeah,
that's what I thought they would do, but they didn't. Right? He just played pretty much like a standard right back. So, you know, I mean, and like remember, Greg Berhalter tried this with Tyler Adams early on when Greg got the job. He started Tyler Adams out at the right back position, and then he was going to rotate him inside. And you know, you could tell Tyler gave it his best effort, but it just wasn't natural. And sometimes these things take time. But obviously, with the Serginho Dest issue, they do have to solve some right back problems. And I will talk later about Scally and I mean, why don't we go to Charlie? And Charlie, you can talk a little bit about what you thought of Timo Weah at right wing back.
Yes, and to answer some of the questions in the chat, yes, this is live. So, Gordo, is this actually live now or pre-recorded? It's live. We're back to being live, baby.
We're back. We're back.
I'm excited. This is awesome to see the chats, to respond to the people who have some questions. But ideally, I'm with you, Jesse, that I thought Yunus Musah would play. Yes, he was listed as the right back, but I thought, okay, this is that new philosophy as a right back that Pep Guardiola kind of has tried to revolutionize, right? Have that right back come into the midfield and be more advanced, because Calabria comes in, but he plays almost like a center back because Theo Hernandez is bombing down the field, and then they need somebody for stability and structure to basically not let it fall apart when in transition. So I was a little surprised that he was staying right and playing as a true right back. And he's a smart enough player. He's so good technically that he can still make that work. It's almost like, okay, he has almost more time. He can see the whole pitch from that position. You don't expect him to lose the ball because he doesn't lose the ball in the midfield anyway. So you give a player like that with that much quality time as a right back, it's a little bit more reserved and he's conservative. But yeah, he can do that job, but that's not his job long term. You don't want to see Yunus Musah playing right back just because he can do what you need him to do there. But ultimately, long term, his position is in the middle of the pitch.
Well, Chuck, I want to keep it here with Musah before we move into a different player. And this is what it looks like, and Jesse described this a little bit. Yunus Musah looks very coachable. And where I think what's interesting for me at him at right back is sometimes if you have a team that knows how to create that type of space, they're going to have a lot of the ball and they're going to be able to create and pull the strings from that position because for whatever reason, that's where teams like to give up that space. So if he can step into that area, because he's very good at gliding past that first defender, it's the decision-making once he gets into that next part of the space where I'm, okay, now what? But if he is as coachable as we all think that he is, then it should be relatively easy in theory to get him to make that final pass, because that's really what's unlocking or blocking him at the 8 spot too, is like he gets into good spots, but then doesn't know what the right decision is, in that particular moment.
His game is not getting up and down the flank. That's not his game. Even when he played at Valencia,
no, but he can
do the job. But he can, but that's not his strength. He's not someone who enjoys going up and down the flank and just whipping balls in, as a typical right winger or in a 3-5-2 right back, whatever that is. He's more comfortable taking touches and coming inside, which he did at Valencia when he was playing in that position. And now if you're flipping roles with Timothy Weah, that's somebody who enjoys that. He likes that work.
Okay,
who gets up and down.
Counterpoint. What if Weah is the one that's going to get excluded from our midfield, but Tyler is back? Now, obviously, Tyler's still hurt, so who knows? But if it ends up being Tyler, McKennie, and Gio Reyna in the middle of midfield for us,
you're saying Musah.
You mean Musah?
Yeah. If Musah is the one that gets squeezed out, he gets excluded from midfield. I would be like, I'll play right back. I know Des is out, coach. And I would take Musah over Scally, to be honest with you. I'll put my flag on the ground right now.
Probably would too. I mean, again, one of the things you can do is rotate Musah into the midfield, right? But then you're asking Robinson on the left to almost be more of a center back. Of course, unless you drop Tyler Adams or Gio Reyna, which I would not recommend, but we've seen that already. But I mean, there are ways that I think you could make sense of it, and it might be necessary. So listen, there's different things. I've coached players over the years that I've changed their position. Now, it's not something I like to do because typically formations of players, they play in a certain position their entire life, and they then develop the kinds of habits and understanding and comfortability of what that position needs. But sometimes you can see something in a player and say, you know what, they might look a little bit better in this spot, and they might be able to help the balance of the team with what we need. So an example for me is I had Sam Greenwood in Leeds, and he was typically a striker, right? But the way that I saw him, he was more, even when he played striker, he'd like to come underneath. He was more of a connector. His strength wasn't playing with his back to goal. It was more now being a deliverer of passes once he could turn and face his own goal and start to like make passes that made a difference. So I thought, okay, well, what about him as an 8? And then what about him as a 6? And then it worked. It actually worked for him. And he was good at running and closing space down and counter pressing. And so it wound up being a good situation for him. Now I think they loaned him out to Sunderland. I think he plays like a 10 now. Man, or was it Sunderland? I can't remember. Anyway, but again, I think Musah's qualities don't necessarily tend toward him. Is that's what you're trying to say, Charlie? Tend toward him being a right back, right? He's more of a guy that can close down space. He can definitely be an 8 where he's box to box, but he's definitely good against the ball when he has to close down in tight spaces, 5 to 10 yards, close space down that way. He's a good passer from deep, and then he's good when we need a solution to get out of a tight space. He can dribble and find a way to create opportunities and advantages on his own. The one thing I think he lacks a little bit is just positional discipline, right? Like the concept of how to fit within the team, stay in certain spots, do what he needs to do, and kind of be a connector from A to B. See, I feel like when he gets caught in some of these situations where he's drifting around too much, taking too many touches, he can sometimes get himself into trouble. And in general, this is why I say I just don't think he looked that comfortable.
No, he's definitely not comfortable there.
He's a quality player, right? With so many physical and intellectual abilities with how to play the game. And I think that's probably why they thought, well, let's try him at right back and see how it looks. But I think really now making him a cornerstone of the future, I think is going to be really important for the U.S. national team.
I just want to finish up by saying with this Musah topic that I appreciate Stefano Pioli, the manager of AC Milan, for giving us an opportunity to see what he would look like in that, especially because with Dest hurt, that is a big need for us. All right, Timo Weah.
Is that why he did it? Is that why he did it?
I hope so. I don't know. Maybe him and Greg are texting back and forth. Would you mind?
Musah could play every position on the pitch.
Probably could.
He's one of those type of players. But where's his max potential? It's as an 8. That's his max potential.
Agreed.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Okay, Timo Weah time. Chuck, take it away. What did you think about his performance? Getting the start over Weston McKennie for a couple consecutive games.
Well, can I first ask about that? I'm sorry for interrupting.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Weston McKennie not starting now?
It dumbfounds me because
it's got to be about his contract negotiation. It's got
it has to be because he's turned it down and he said, obviously I see myself, adding more value to the team, which means my contract should be higher than what you're offering. So for me, this is a complete contract negotiation ploy that Juve are saying, hey, you don't sign, then you don't play.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that's going to motivate Weston more to want to sign?
I think either way it motivates you to play. I would take out the signing part because I think he's done enough that whether Juve want to pay him what he thinks he deserves or he's going to be something that's attractive on the transfer market if that's the case, right? So
yeah, but I just don't understand the strategy from Juventus to
think they
try
can
to
pressure
freeze him out by not starting him. Like you're just going to upset him. You're going to lower his market value because people are going to be asking what's happening. Like it makes no sense to me. Like continue to invest in the process, continue to invest in negotiation, show Weston that you believe in him, show him that you love having him there. And if in the summer it doesn't work out and then you need to sell him, then you haven't done anything to affect his sale price and you still have treated him in a way that's respectful to how he's handled himself this season. So I see no benefit from Juventus' side in the way in doing this.
No, the crazy part is he's been one of their best players throughout the whole season.
100%.
And all of a sudden now he's on the bench. Like I get if you said, "Hey, you're the first substitute," but he's deserved to be playing throughout the game because of his impact. And now because of the contracts, you're saying, "Hey, we're gonna sit you on the side." To me, that I would feel alienated. I would lose trust and confidence in the club. I would be very disappointed, and that's the last thing you want to do to a player that you see a future with. So to answer your question, I thought Timothy Weah, he offers you something different. He's more north-south than what Weston McKennie is. And it's almost like their strengths complement each other when they're on the pitch together, and you could tell they enjoy playing with each other. So it's a shame that they're using almost like a like for like when that's not at all what they are. But I like what I've seen from Timothy Weah throughout this season. He's trying his best to make an impact in the attacking side of the ball, which is kind of when you say, oh, he's getting goals and assists. That's what's going to keep you in the team. Yet I feel like just he doesn't have the trust yet defensively. And that's just about figuring it out. Every player, I think, adjusts to the coach's, management style a little bit different. And I honestly don't even think we're going to see Allegri there next season. So if that's the case, then I think Timothy Weah just has a lot to gain to try and finish out the season strong. But for me, he's the right player to take Serginho Dest's spot if Serginho cannot play.
What's interesting is that Juve and Milan might have new coaches, both of them, next season. So I know a guy. He might share this podcast with us, Chuck.
So Juventus if they win the cup and they finish second, well, they're third now. But so regardless, so winning the cup and finishing third, that's not good enough.
I think for Juve, no. The fans are not happy with him, and the team is kind of, to be honest.
Pioli. I mean, he's finishing second.
But at least you've had some great moments throughout the season, like attacking football. And you watch Juve, it is literally like watching paint dry. They sit back. It's very pragmatic and defensive. And you're saying, hey, are you going to throw numbers for it? Are you going to take chances and risks? You have the quality to do it. So I think from my standpoint, it would be in the best interest of both Weston and Timothy Weah for a new manager to come in, because I think they've shown their quality, and watching the team, I think they fit in with this Juve side.
What's interesting is that Milan didn't get one shot on goal in this game against Juve, which says a lot. It's actually been a pretty rough 10 days overall for Stefano Pioli in Milan. They got knocked out of Europe by another Italian team for the second year in a row. They lost a 6th straight derby to Inter, who then went on to celebrate in front of them after they claimed the Scudetto, and they were playing loud trance music, I think, to try to drown out Inter's celebrations, which is kind of funny. And then obviously they just had a really drab performance against Juve. And I think that Pioli's out the door. Before we get into potential coaching options for both, Jesse, I wanted to talk to you about Christian Pulisic. I thought he was pretty quiet, but it makes me think, because there were no shots on goal overall, that maybe there's some tactics that were employed by Pioli that maybe handcuffed the team, because Leao was pretty quiet as well. But Leao's had a really up and down season.
They employed their man marking again. They clearly went to Juventus to try to get a draw, knowing that if they do that, they pretty much keep their second place finish. They defended most of the game. Juventus was far better, but also not enough dynamic movement and ideas in and around the box, which leads to your standard Italian 0-0. Which I've seen here repeatedly, right? I just wish you'd see more teams that would look to push the game more, both with the ball, against the ball, in set piece situations. I just find that teams here are too conservative and are always thinking first about protecting their own goal. So,
Jesse,
this is what this game was. This is exactly what this game was.
Compare these two sides to Spalletti's Napoli.
Spalletti's Napoli. I could argue also Atalanta, right? And the way they play, and they're more dynamic, and they try to command the game in all moments. So but this is rooted in Catenaccio, right? Which is this cover and balance. The idea of cover and balance always in the way you defend and how you defend crosses, and listen, it works. Like, you cannot deny it. Italian teams are hard to break down. It just, for me, it makes the game not as dynamic and as exciting. And, sometimes, not always. Like, you could go last year and say Italian teams performed really well. And you could still say Atalanta and where they are in Europa League. And so sometimes you get, a team that everything comes together for them in Europe. But now I just feel like the way that the game is evolving in other countries, that often the game in Italy is a little bit left behind.
Yeah, with the jobs, let's talk a little bit about the coaching stuff. Thiago Motta, who is currently coaching Bologna to a hell of a season, is being linked to the Juve job. And Julian Lopetegui, Chuck, who had most of his success, or I guess his most famous success, well, the two teams. One was Sevilla, helped them win the Europa League, but that's just what Sevilla does. I don't even know if they need a manager to do that. They just love winning that competition. And then he had the Spain job, and he got fired right before the World Cup, he had 14 wins and 6 draws in his 20 games, 0 losses. But he had been talking to Real Madrid behind everybody's back, and they sacked him before the World Cup. And then he went on to suck at Madrid, and they fired him after a couple months. So that really backfired against him. His most recent job was Wolverhampton. He's no longer there either, but he's being linked to this job. Foreigners aren't necessarily well received in Italy. So I wonder, when I think about Yunus Musah and Christian Pulisic, what kind of coach Lopetegui could potentially be for them, Chuck. And then also maybe there would be a better fit, because there's only been 2 foreign managers that have won in Serie A since 2000. That's Sven-Göran Eriksson with Lazio and of course Jose Mourinho with Inter Milan when they won the treble. So
that would have been a good quiz.
That's an insane stat.
To us both, by the way.
Yeah. So there's 18.
You should have tested our knowledge.
I should have actually. So 20
You
coaches
should've.
currently
That's the flip of England, by the way. That's the flip.
Is it really? There's only 2 English coaches?
No English coaches.
No
actually.
English
They're
Oh,
in the
yeah.
Premier League.
Sorry, I'm all over the place. It's part of my charm. Okay,
All
Chuck.
right,
So
sorry.
talk to me a little bit about Milan's coaching, and I don't think Lopetegui ultimately comes in. The Milan fans are already upset about that possibility.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a tendency to float out a name to see what the fan base thinks.
Yeah. What do you guys
And
think?
then
Just tiptoe into it.
if they're not too happy about it, then you go, oh yeah, we weren't going there anyways. That's fake news. What I'd say about Milan is you have so many attack-minded players, some brilliant players, and you have the opportunity to replace an ongoing legend in Olivier Giroud, who will be coming to Major League Soccer most likely. So now, given that squad and the bones of that squad, you have real pieces to make a run at Scudetto and the Champions League next season. So you need a manager who's going to inspire to play a little bit more attack-minded, which is what all the players want and the fans want.
Right.
Lopetegui, he's not the most aggressive manager. And I would have said De Zerbi, but we're seeing Brighton go the absolute opposite way.
They've been shocking since
they've
the beginning
been
of the year.
really poor.
Really poor.
You can't just say injuries here, injuries there, throughout the whole season. It hasn't been great. So I feel like there's got to be another manager that you can tempt away, because Milan is such a big club. There's also a manager here, Jesse Marsch, Jesse Marschi, who's available. Put his hands up.
Parlo Italiano.
Hey, all I know is, enough has also been talked about Conte going to Napoli as well. So I don't know. I think there's got to be a manager out there that would fit this squad a little bit better, who plays a good brand of football that would excite the Milan fans.
Listen, I'll tell you this. I went to get the Gazzetta dello Sport last week, and this is when the speculation of Lopetegui started.
Are you looking for your own name, Jesse, or what's happening?
No, I'm looking to learn Italian. This is the way I learn. 8 pages. 8 pages.
On Lopetegui?
On Lopetegui. 8 pages just on speculation and what he would bring, what he would do. This is Italy, right? Like,
it's a religion.
And it's like when a topic comes up, they want to beat that topic and go over it and over it. I mean, there's a manager in charge of AC Milan, and there's 8 pages in the world's greatest sport magazine about speculation about a different manager. It's crazy, right?
We need more of that here. We need more of that.
Yeah.
Would you take Thomas Tuchel if you were Milan? Would you take a Tuchel?
I listen, one of the things you can say about Milan, because it's an international squad, that you could consider an international player now, or an international manager. Now, AC Milan is also like a jewel of Italy, right? So if you go over time, there have not been a lot of international managers there. And it's been sort of an Italian rite of passage, right, to be part of this club. So, and this is why you're seeing the reaction to Lopetegui.
Would you take a Zidane?
Like,
someone who's
done in a heartbeat.
I would.
If it were me,
never
played
take
in Italy.
If I were in charge of Milan, I would go after an international manager that plays more dynamic football, because I think you have an international squad. You have a dynamic squad.
Well, that's not too cool. You're looking for dynamic.
You could challenge the way that the game is played in Italy by being more dynamic. Tuchel does. Listen, Tuchel's not. it's not that he's not dynamic.
Pragmatic.
I think he's pragmatic, and that's what Lopetegui is too, by the way. He's very pragmatic. He likes to defend, and then he'll treat his defensive tactics based on whatever the opponent brings to him, and he'll defend first, and then he'll look to get you on the counter. And he has some rotations in the way that he plays in possession, but it's not overly complicated, right? It's not.
Jesse,
and so
one of the
in
fans
some ways
said,
that fits
No Pategui, Matt Osmond, who is a avid listener. He says no Pategui.
No Pategui.
Listen, that's the hashtag or whatever. That's
no Pategui.
No Pategui.
Also, if Tuchel comes in, that means Christian Pulisic definitely needs to leave because him and Tuchel don't necessarily get along.
That's
out. First. Second, my vote is for Big Sam Allardyce. All right, we're going to take our first break and call it what you want. When we come back, we're going to talk about Americans abroad, so don't go anywhere.
Europa League semi-finals on CBS Sports Network and streaming live on Paramount Plus.
You were made for this.
Welcome back to Call What You Want. Got Americans abroad and some notable Americans abroad. That'll be the graphic for those that can see it. If not, I'm just going to read them out to you. Josh Sargent scores 2-2 draw against Swansea. He's now in the top 10, or he has been hanging around there for goals in the championship. Emmanuel Sabi getting assists in a big 3-3 draw versus PSG, which is a big deal for Le Havre because they are right there on the relegation zone. They're tied on 29 points with a couple games left to go. Rokas Puskás scores a brace and an own goal, which almost has a pretty fun hat trick there in 5-1 win. And then Paxten Aronson scores a brace and a 3-2 win for Vitesse over Fortuna Sittard. Now, Vitesse, they got to positive points. They had a minus 18-point deduction, so they were -1 going into this game. They were down 2-1. They come back to win. They now have 2 points. So congratulations to Vitesse for being positive in their lives. Then Austin Trusty, this is on the unfortunate side of things, suffers relegation and a 5-1 defeat to Newcastle, and a lot of harsh lessons being learned there. We got some other notable performances and honorable mentions to get into, but first I want to get to these guys. Jesse Marsch, who was your most notable performance, either good or bad, for our American player pool this weekend?
I watched 2 matches. I watched Paxten play, and then I watched both Scally and Brendan Aronson play against him. So it was an Aronson brother double, really.
Okay.
Listen, here, Paxten Aronson, okay? He scored 2 goals. He scored the winner, and he didn't get the assist, but he kind of had the assist to the assist for the other goal. So he was involved in all 3 goals. However, he was also involved in both defensive goals. So, I mean, this is, I don't know, it's not a hat trick. It's all 5 goals in one match. He could have done better and should have done better blocking a cross that led to the first goal for the opponent. And then he lost the ball that led to a penalty, right? And so he didn't cause the penalty, but he lost the ball that went to the penalty. But the 2 goals he scored were great. It was a hot weekend in Europe in general. So a lot of the matches were a little bit slower and the pace of the game was a little bit slower. But one of the things that struck me the most about this match was, the Eredivisie, I think right now is number 5 league. I think it went above France in the quotient, right? In the European quotient. And I would say that I thought that this game was not as good as an MLS game. So, I mean, maybe that's a topic for another time. And obviously the top teams right now in Holland and PSV and when you look at Feyenoord and those teams, obviously when those teams are at a high level and even they do well when they go in Europe. But, I mean, watching some MLS games, watching that game, I thought MLS was better. And then, the cool thing about watching Union against Gladbach was that Scally and Aronson kind of played against each other a lot. Scally played on the left wing back. He rotated in a lot, and then they would have a winger kind of come back, so he would be kind of deeper in the midfield. And then Aronson was kind of like a right 8 for Union. So it wound up being a 0-0 match. I thought both guys played okay. Sometimes it's funny. I actually kind of like Scally maybe a little bit more on the left because he's more comfortable coming in on his right and making some plays in the interior. So yeah, I mean, I thought all in all, good matches for all 3 players.
All right. I like that. I'm going to go next, Charlie, and then you can bring us home on this. We'll get into some of the honorable mentions as I talked about before. I'm going to go with Flo Balogun, and I'm going to kind of flip it. I'm I'm sad about his current situation. He got the start for Monaco against Lyon away from home. He had an assist early on in that game to Wissam Ben Yedder. I don't know how much he knew about it. It was about 30 seconds into the game, had a slight deflection, and it went right to Ben Yedder, and they scored. They end up losing 3-2. They're currently in second in Liga on 58 points. Brest is on 56, and Lille's on 55, so still a lot to play for with 3 games left to go. But he got subbed at halftime. He had 16 touches, 5 out of 9 passing. His only touch in the box in Lyon's box was that assist. Again, was a bit of a slight deflection. He's got 2 goal contributions in 7 league starts since the turn of the year, and it's just not enough. And I guess what's interesting for me, and I'm curious to hear from you guys, especially our resident number 9, Charlie Davies, about Balogun in particular, is that Adi Hutter, the coach for Monaco, was really high on Breel Embolo, and Breel Embolo tore his ACL over the summer, which is why they had that emphasis of trying to go get Balogun. They paid 26 million pounds for him in particular. And now Embolo's back. And Adi Hutter said this about Embolo, how he came in, because he's now getting back into the team and starting to play. The impact he had, it was amazing. He helped us out a lot. He has a different element to Balogun and Ben Yedder. In the last 4 games, he could be one of the key players for us. I'm happy for him and the team. And now when you have Hutter talking about Embolo like this and Balogun not making the most of his minutes, it makes me a little nervous that we're not going to have Flo being as sharp as he possibly can going into the Copa America. So, and I know this isn't just isolated to this weekend. It's been kind of building up. As I mentioned that stat, not a lot of goal contributions leading or throughout 2024. And it feels like just maybe a little lack of belief and trust from his manager right now. And Chuck, as our resident number 9, I wanted you to potentially, I don't know, concur with me or say, no, he's going to be fine. Because I'm a little nervous about Balogun and his sharpness going into Copa America.
Well, you should be nervous because he's not in form. And this happens to strikers all around the world. They'll go in and out of form, and it's how else can you impact the game, and how do you get out of that bad form? And the only way is you just have to put your head down and work harder. And you find yourself winning that confidence back, not only in yourself, but from your teammates by doing the extra things within the match, whether it's, tracking back to help a player who was out of position, whether it's the hold up play or winning aerial duels, winning set pieces, winning penalty kicks for your team, just doing all the dirty work when you are, kind of shy in front of goal. And I think that's what's going to be important for him to finish the season out, is just proving that he deserves to be on the pitch, whether he's finding the back of net or creating goals or just adding value to the team. And that's usually what gets you going, because you can't come in to the U.S. men's national team camp after, finishing the season, maybe playing on the bench or cold or not being in a good rhythm, and then expect to all of a sudden, I'm going to turn it on in Copa America against Uruguay. It doesn't work like that. You have to go in with building your confidence and figuring out, okay, what are the things I'm not doing well? Is it my positioning? Is it my first touch? What is the thing that's preventing me from, being on this goal scoring tear, which we saw him last year when he was with Reims. So I know he has the quality, but at this stage, at the top stage in international football, it's about quality and confidence. You need confidence, and that means being in a rhythm, being match fit and sharp. So I hope that he can find that before the first friendly before Brazil and Colombia in the summer.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Now, Jesse, Greg Berhalter has some decisions to make, right? Obviously, Flo has been and has shown and demonstrated what kind of quality he has. But we could argue a Haji Wright or a Josh Sargent are in better form. What do you do with that situation, knowing that you have as talented of a player as Balogun? Even though our system, when I look at our system as a national team, our striker doesn't get a lot of touches. So I kind of wonder who do you think would be the right fit there? And would you elect to start Balogun in Copa America?
First, I believe for Copa America, you can bring in 26. Not sure. Ives, could you check that for us? So right away, you have a little bit more flexibility, right, with bringing in a couple extra players. I would treat, if it were me, I would treat Copa America like it's a big part of the next step in the process. And so I think you've got to really now hone in on who are your guys and make sure that now that you're going to have an extended time together where you're actually going to be able to train, we're going to be able to work on some things. I would want to make sure that I bring in all the players that I feel like are most likely to be part of what the World Cup squad is going to look like in 2 years. And if that's the case, then I think Balogun for sure is in there. Now you're right. You have a lot of players performing, especially in Europe this year, that are in that position, but no one that I think has really grabbed the position and made it theirs. And we all know the best way to do that, especially when you're a striker, is to perform well for your club team and score goals in bunches. Looking at this, obviously Florian Balogun did that last year, and probably now Josh Sargent fits the category of who's doing it this year. You could argue that Liga is a step above the championship. But, obviously that's going to be the most important thing, is among those group of young, talented strikers, who is going to emerge in, now this summer and over the next 2 years to establish themselves as that's our guy, that's our striker. And by the way, I think that's going to be a major factor in achieving the overall potential of what the U.S. national team can achieve in the home World Cup.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is you have the 2 friendlies, obviously, before Copa America. And if Greg elects to start somebody outside of Flo in that first game, how does he respond to that on an the mental emotional level, right? When we talk about the 4 areas of development.
He better respond in the right way, because that's the only way to respond. You can't
I get it.
On the national team. You got to prove yourself. This isn't club, Jimmy.
I get it.
We all know. And I'm sure, because Call It What You Want is so big, he will hear this.
I love that.
Whether you are starting, which I think we all expected Balogun to be the starter on the national team given his quality, but if you're not producing and you're not playing and your match fitness and sharpness isn't there, guess what? The national team is not a freebie. You don't get just to walk in based on your name and your pedigree. You got to sit the bench and earn your stripes. So if he is on the bench, if he doesn't go in with the confidence and the sharpness to start, I expect him to play with that intensity and the urgency once he does get in to show, hey, I am the number 1, number 9. So I would expect him to play with his head up and play with that fire. And then that's when we get the best of Balogun, right?
I hope
I think that's what we all want.
I hope that too. All right,
Love
Chuck.
it, Charlie. Love it.
So Chuck, we've kind of talked about Balogun here, but I don't know who was your player to watch. Who impressed you this weekend? We got tie it up.
So it's a kind of 2 players. So Paxten Aronson, which Jesse touched on, the fact that you go from a Bundesliga club like Frankfurt and you go to Eredivisie, which we saw with Ricardo Pepi with Augsburg, to Groningen. You're getting consistent playing time, first team playing time, and I think it's paying off for Paxten Aronson, especially to go back to Frankfurt next year, which I expect him to do. He's not going to, in my mind, go to another club. Frankfurt's a phenomenal club in the Bundesliga, so he's got the minutes. I think they see a lot of potential in him, and this is where he's growing. He's supposed to be the guy on a team that is at the bottom of the Dutch league, but he's getting minutes and he's dependent on, and this is where you really grow and blossom. So he got the brace against Fortuna Sittard, and like Jesse said, the quality is really low towards the end of the Eredivisie. But either way, it's still a place to go and play and develop, and knowing that you're going back to your parent club to get playing time. I love that in a young American who's playing overseas. Plus, he's got the Olympics. I hope he gets selected and he plays a big role this summer in the Olympics. And the other player that I think has a lot to say still on the national team, because it felt like he just started to get going and then got hurt, and that was in the World Cup, and that's Josh Sargent. He scored again in the final, this last match against Swansea. Sargent, I think, is really matured in a lot of ways in his overall play, the way he carries himself. You just feel like he knows the responsibility when he's on the pitch and what his role is and how he can impact the game. I still think he has a lot left to fill with his potential. So I'm excited to see him be involved with the U.S. men's national team, because I think he will be. He's definitely earned it with his playing time. So if you're looking at the depth pool at that 9, yeah, Balogun's there. Pepe, who has his stock is down because of his playing time, and I think, that's a player I'd like to see at the Olympics because he's not going to be a starter for the U.S. men's national team. It's already Haji Wright has already jumped him in that pecking order. So you have Balogun, Haji Wright, and I think Josh Sargent is number 3 at the moment, and with a Pepe 4. So Pepe's still age eligible for the Olympics. It makes sense for him to go there, and I think Josh Sargent still has a lot to offer the first group. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform in these friendlies with Brazil and Colombia. I think they're finishing the season strong, and if you're playing with confidence and you already know how the group works, which we've seen with Josh Sargent in the in the World Cup, there could be something there as well. It's another option.
I think what's interesting about the Olympics and our Olympic team is I don't feel like we need any overage players. We could use them.
Yes, we
of
do.
Course.
No,
we could. Who?
To medal.
Jimmy,
center back. I think it's center back.
We could use the center back. But almost everywhere else, I think that's a sign of progress and evolution. And if all of our age eligible guys were say Copa America wasn't there, I mean, we could have a really strong and robust Olympic team, right? And we could say that. I mean, France could say the same thing and all that. I get that, but
let me pick up a couple things, Jimmy. So first, I was wrong. It's 23-man roster for Copa. Okay. So that does put a little bit of the squeeze on what happens with that striker position. And the other thing is, I think with the national team, that the striker is probably the one position that's a little bit plug and play, right? It's a little bit where you've seen whether it's been Miroslav Klose early in his career, Podolski, like different guys.
Oliver Bierhoff or Klinsmann. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, whatever, but instances where you've seen national teams go with the hot hand and play the striker that's been in good form, scoring goals. And so I don't know, it'll be interesting. This is not an easy decision for Greg Berhalter to make on exactly who his 3 are. If he only calls in 3, which he often only does, you could always say Haji Wright can play on a left or right. Same with Sargent, same with all of them. But in the end, you've got to, I think, really figure out who is going to be your striker. And again, maybe it's different this summer than it is next summer. But if you would go by that standard, then you would think that that's Josh Sargent.
What's interesting too is the Olivier Giroud example, where he didn't score any goals in the 2018 World Cup, but his hold-up play was so good he had to have him on the field, and he ended up obviously they won the World Cup in 2018. A couple notes too about the championship. I think it's awesome that Josh Sargent currently tied for 5th in goals with Jamie Vardy in the championship with 16. Haji Wright's got 15 in the league as well, puts him tied for 8th. We have 2 Americans in the top 10 in scoring, and Norwich has a very good chance of getting into the playoff promotion. They've got a game away to Birmingham, their last one, which is tough because Birmingham's trying to get out of the relegation zone. So we'll see how that one plays out. A draw should be enough for them to survive and escape. So we'll have to wait to go on that.
Hey,
some other notable performances. Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
I was going to say, why doesn't Jesse address this last comment from Bob's your uncle? Jesse, what do you think about Tyler Adams playing right back if available, and Johnny Cardoso at the 6?
Coach Jesse,
let's start with if available. If available.
If available.
That's a very, very strong
if
2
available.
words there.
Again, he's not in the squad again twice this week. If Tyler Adams is healthy, I think you have to. He's such an influential player. I think you have to play him at the 6. But if it were me, this is me, I would put Chris Richards at right back and then choose your 2 center backs and play Anthony Robinson and give Anthony Robinson more freedom to almost play like a pseudo winger and really
you like Jedi getting up and down, huh?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah. So then if you did that, I would extrapolate that out.
I would rotate the 3. I would rotate.
Well, who would be your left wing? Then would it be Christian, and then Christian pinches inside? How do you?
I would have Christian come inside. Tim Weah go out right, and then I would play if Tyler's ready. I'd play Tyler, and then I'd play Gio and Weston, and then I would play. Yeah, then you have the striker dilemma.
Yeah, I love
like a back 3 though.
Play each striker 33 minutes. Each striker 33 minutes.
Hell no! I vote no. If I'm the striker, I vote no. But there's another comment from Spencer Doherty. What about Luca De La Torre to Copa and Malik Tillman to Olympics? I like the Malik Tillman to Olympics. I think Malik Tillman should be going to the Olympics. He's Olympic age, and he's not a starter with this group on the first team, the U.S. men's national team. If you're not a starter, a out and out starter, or the 12th man, let's say the first person off the bench to change the game, and you're Olympic age eligible, I think you should be going to the Olympics. I think it's more important to play in the Olympics and play every game as a top player to try and get a gold or silver medal, get to the final game with your best group of players who are age eligible if you are not a player who's going to be getting considerable minutes at Copa America. I think the benefits are far greater. So
Yeah,
thank you.
I would agree with that. Only I would go a little bit deeper in the squad. I would go deeper than 12. I would go maybe 16, right? If you're in the first 16 field players, 15, 16 field players, and if you're not, if you're above that, then I'd say, yeah, they're much more.
Do you think Malik
beneficial for
Tillman's
these
a
coaches.
top 16?
I think he's
on the border.
That's tight.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you, I mean, I would say he's probably 15, 16, 17.
I don't know if you saw him play this past weekend, boys, but he had 2 goals and 1 assist in the first 11 minutes of the game against Heerenveen, which is PSV's biggest ever away win. PSV now on the precipice of winning their 25th Eredivisie title. Still quite a few behind Ajax at the top, but very impressive performance, not only from the club, but Ernie Stewart, who took over, had to make some tough decisions. When you think about what he inherited, he had Ruud van Nistelrooy, who ended up quitting a couple months after with 1 game left last season when they ended up finishing second. They were runners-up 3 consecutive seasons in a row. They finally win the title. They hire Peter Bosch, or Ernie Stewart does. They I don't know if you want to put air quotes around this, take a chance on some Americans. Malik Tillman on loan from Bayern. You get Serginho Dest on loan from Barcelona. You get Ricardo Pepi from Augsburg for 11 million. You go get Irving Lozano, Mexican international.
Look at the 403 minutes. That is
7 goals in those 403 minutes.
I know,
it's
but
not
that
good
is
enough
just
for Ricardo
not
Pepi.
it.
I get it.
403 minutes.
I get it.
The return is crazy, but I'm at a lot. I know you're behind the captain, Luke de Jong, right? And he's had a phenomenal season, but there's not another way to get him more minutes.
Well, if your agent comes out, Chuck, and starts running his mouth about Pepi not playing, and then we don't see Pepi, like disappears off the 18 for I don't know how many weeks. Thankfully, he got to play about 15 minutes. He reemerged. He's alive. Ricardo Pepi's alive. He got to play a little bit against Heerenveen. But now PSV can clinch the Eredivisie title this weekend against Sparta Rotterdam.
Why is he got to be? Why is it? He was just commenting. Why are you saying running his mouth? I mean, he's just making a couple of comments.
It wasn't just commenting, Jesse. He was my guy needs to play.
He goes, he's running his little mouth.
Oh man. Anyway, I promised some honorable mentions. We got a couple honorable mentions. We talked about Joe Scally and Brendan Aronson facing off in a scoreless draw in the Bundesliga. Tanner Tessman and Gianluca Busio doing the work for Venezia, 2-1 win over Cremonese. And they're now 1 point off automatic promotion spot with 3 games left to go, with Como getting a 1-1 draw with Sampdoria this past weekend. It'll be interesting. Chris Richards and Jedi Robinson squared off in a London derby that ended 1-1. Good goal there at the very end. Johnny Cardoso plays his first Seville derby that ended 1-1 between Sevilla and Real Betis. And I talked about Balogun. Taylor Booth coming back from injury after 2 months and got to play in their 2-2 draw, Utrecht's 2-2 draw against RKC.
How did you not pick him, Jimmy? How did you not?
I don't know. I didn't wear my Taylor Booth pajamas.
I'm absolutely shocked you didn't pick him. Crazy.
Yeah. Busio also had the winning assist in that game. I wanted to throw that out there. Got an assist and a yellow card. That's what I want for my midfielders. A little bit of grit and a little bit of
Jesse,
talent.
that's a good shout, eh?
Oh, unbelievable scenes. All right, we're going to take our next break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we're going to talk about Indianapolis and their future as an MLS club. Do not go anywhere.
At CBS Sports Galazzo Network, we're bringing you the game. Madness of Messi arrives! Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Whoa.
And all day long!
24/7.
Welcome back to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Jesse Marsch and Charlie Davies. And we are into the final segment of the show. We're excited about it. Now, there's some big news domestically here. Major League Soccer. The mayor of Indianapolis, his name is Joe Hogsett. I got a lot of time for that name. That's amazing. Joe Hogsett, who said early Monday morning, this happened last week, I flew to New York City to meet with the commissioner of Major League Soccer. As a result of that conversation, I am today informing Indianapolis that as mayor, I will be leading an effort to file an application with MLS to pursue an expansion team, which I believe is news for Indy 11, the USL championship team that's owned by Keystone, because there was like a good faith agreement between, or at least Keystone thought this for years, between them and the mayor's office about developing this area, this $1 billion stadium deal.
Sounds
and
a
now
lot like
Keystone,
San Diego Loyal.
Yeah, they're accusing the mayor of backing out of this now, and now he's going all in on MLS. MLS's expansions kill list, I would say, is that Austin Bold was once a USL championship team. Then they got Austin FC. St. Louis FC became St. Louis City now. San Diego Loyal, now San Diego FC. There's a lot of questions to get into here. But Chuck, I'm going to come to you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, I guess we should start here. Do you think Indianapolis would be a good MLS city? Because I've loved what Indy 11 has been doing and building that foundation and that base for supporters and really demonstrating that there are a lot of people that love the game in that city.
He said, why not Wisconsin?
He's from Boston. He doesn't know anything about the Midwest.
He said, why not Wisconsin, dude?
Yeah, I mean, you should come to the resident
Go to Milwaukee.
Right?
Yeah,
this
dude.
is how we do. This is how we do politics in the Midwest.
Rampage.
What if they replace Ford Madison with an MLS side? People would be going bonkers. No, I think it's a great market. We saw Cincinnati. They were bringing loads of people to the stadium. I remember there's a 30,000 game with 30,000 in attendance, and I think everyone's like, "Well, this is a real market." And next thing you know, FC Cincinnati comes into the league. So I think Indy 11, it's one of those things. Same thing with San Diego. You're thinking San Diego Loyal is trying to make a play, and then all of a sudden over the top comes a new franchise for San Diego, and Loyal is like, so are we done? Or so there's a real market, and I love that the game is expanding and growing, and obviously there's going to be a lot of money behind that bid. So if they do get it, they're going to try and maximize the area and the market and try and grow the game. It's one of those things where, it's just that's the part of the game that's really tough to handle. Is you're loyal to these smaller USL clubs that have done a great job of building the game. They have a loyal fan base. It's really family friendly and growing and trying to develop players. And all of a sudden, they get an MLS franchise and that unnecessarily, I guess a necessity has to kind of be pushed aside. So, it's one of those things where it's a bittersweet opportunity, but look at how beautiful that is. And that was that was going to be the USL stadium, right? And essentially, that's probably going to be what the MLS stadium is going to look like, right?
Yeah. That's that. I mean, they're saying that was an area that's been underutilized in the area. They were going to revitalize it, to continue to use that word. And now it was called 11 Park, and now the Keystone are upset. And obviously, going to be upset that the city's electing to go a different direction. What I find interesting, and not to say the expansion fee would have been different, but the expansion fees are exorbitant now, Jesse Marsch. $500 million for San Diego FC to get in. St. Louis got in for $200 million. And back in 2013 was a then record when NYCFC got in at $100 million to join MLS in 2015. I assume $500 million is the price tag, but not only is it $500 million just to get in, you also now have to probably put $500 million to build a stadium and the infrastructure. Well, yeah, I mean, for some people, that's nothing. But if you are an owner, you're like, do I want to spend $1 billion to build something in Indianapolis? Or you're just like, hey, this is just how it goes. I get to hang out with a bunch of billionaires if I buy into the league, and I got a great piece of real estate, and it's all working for me, and it's just another way to diversify my portfolio.
Sports franchises are all about valuations, right? Not about what the cost of running them is. And that's the case whether you're talking Premier League, NBA, all of this. Maybe Indy could have two teams, right? And they could have a derby, bring in a derby into MLS. What about no?
That's helped other markets. I mean, LA in particular. LAFC Galaxy is awesome.
for me. This is perfect American politics, right? Like one promising something and then something else coming that's better, and so flipping and going with the MLS. I don't know. Indy is a. I don't know. I mean, listen, I played with some guys from Indianapolis and against some guys from Indianapolis growing up. Indy kind of always struck me more of a basketball state, right? Obviously Hoosiers and whatnot. In the Midwest, the big teams and players came out of St. Louis. They came out of Detroit.
Wow.
They came out of Chicago.
Indiana University and Todd Yeagley are going to be coming after you.
Bloomington.
Seriously.
Bloomington.
I lost to
came out of
Sweet 16
Milwaukee.
in Indiana.
And they came out of Milwaukee, by the way. So I don't know. I mean, listen, if they have one thing I do like, I think is a good recipe for success for MLS is going kind of into these secondary markets. And by the way, Indianapolis might be the biggest city left that doesn't have an MLS.
No, Vegas.
But aren't they talking about getting one too?
What a biggest
Come on, Vegas.
Phoenix.
Yeah.
Phoenix
probably
would be good.
New Hampshire.
So anyways, my point is these secondary markets have proved like
Milwaukee,
Portland, like
Rhode Island,
St. Louis, like some of these other franchises I think have done. Cincinnati, they've done really well with their fan base, and they're dying for the game in their city. So I don't see why Indianapolis couldn't do well.
Okay, so then let's talk about MLS expansion overall. At what point is it going to stop? Now I've referenced this before, but when I was still playing, I was writing an article for ESPN at the time and kind of giving on the inside looking out perspective. And I put a column together about the future of MLS and what I thought would end up happening. This is 2008, 2009. And I said that,
did you get it wrong?
No, I'm not too far off.
Okay.
But I said that we would expand to ultimately get to 40 teams and then break off into MLS 1 and MLS 2 because they want to control every facet of, even if there's promotion relegation, they want to control that. And that's bearing fruit in different ways, which I didn't get into in terms of the youth academy and controlling the pipeline with MLS Next Pro, but it all makes sense. So I wonder if that's really the end game. Let's get to 40, then we can break it off. And
I'd like that.
Some of the owners,
Conrad Damas.
If that happens, oh my God, that article is crazy. But that's what I thought could potentially happen, and it might lack some of the romanticism that exists, obviously, in the promotion relegation around the world. But how many? It feels like we followed the NFL model a little bit, Chuck, and so I don't see that changing anytime soon. And so embracing an MLS 1, MLS 2
Super Bowl.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Jimmy. I also think that MLS could acquire the USL at some point, in terms of getting the smaller clubs and feeding into whether it's MLS 2, Next Pro, or MLS, and then building it for some of these cities who have done a terrific job, who have a crazy fan base. Maybe that expansion looks realistic. So either way, I think we're going in the right direction. I can't wait to see what happens after 2026. I think a lot depends on how well does the U.S. men's national team do.
Does that matter?
I don't know that it matters. I mean, it does, but
I think it matters.
The game's got
to
momentum.
What extent? I don't think it's the end all be all, because we saw this past weekend in New England. I called the game against Inter Miami, and it was 65,000, and they were there for Messi, and Messi delivered. Right, so
he did. I was in Kansas City when he delivered when I went there as well.
And I'll tell you, there's a lot of little kids.
Jimmy, when you were saying you didn't think Miami would be able to deliver the goods.
Yeah,
yeah.
He thought Messi wouldn't be able to deliver the goods too.
Marathon, not a sprint, Jesse.
Yeah. Listen, when Messi leaves for the summer, that'll be an issue. But he's such a difference maker, man. Oh my goodness,
it's ridiculous.
Very easy.
He brings it every game, doesn't he?
I was surprised
that
he broke through Caleb Porter's tactics. I know that he's one of the
Rafa Cardenas. I love your comments, man. Keep them coming.
No, I mean,
nobody's tried to trigger me yet, which is crazy.
Because we haven't been live forever.
I don't know. Like how many professional teams are there now? Are there 100 professional teams in America? There might be.
Right? We're gonna put Ives on the job.
I think we're teetering there, Jesse.
Yeah, it's amazing to see in the USL all the way, obviously, in all these different sometimes I'll go and I'll look on my FootMob app and I'll go to USL and there'll be like 30 games, right? So like the game has come so far. And at some point, come on, at some point there will be pressure to move to promotion relegation. I mean, and like trying to protect assets and then what's happening with the lower leagues. And at some point it's going to become inevitable. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it works. And I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised that FIFA, when they gave us the World Cup, didn't mandate along with that promotion relegation, right? Because that's just the standard. That's literally everywhere in the world. You know, you can go to some, like the Dutch second league, okay, they don't relegate. You can go to certain places where they don't always have the same kind of rules for promotion, relegation, or whatever. But the industry standard, guys, the industry standard is to give every team the opportunity to succeed.
Well, what I would jump in and say is what I think is limiting MLS's growth in a really powerful way is that those markets, let's say the USL markets, don't have a chance to get to the top, quote unquote, top division, right? They don't have that. There's no pipeline. So those fans aren't going to follow MLS. They might watch a game or, Leo Messi's playing and want to kind of check out what's happening there. But outside of that, there's no real connective tissue between the two leagues. And so, yes, there's all these teams, but we're not all rowing the boat in the same direction. And I think if the game was going to explode here, you'd have to get everybody on the same page. And I think if MLS was going to acquire USL, Chuck, that's what would have to happen, is that all of a sudden you've created a proper pyramid that allows even a fourth division team in this country could be like, if we just had the right investment, if we just knew the right oil money people, we could have a chance of getting up there. But that possibility that it could happen, even though it feels unlikely because you're in the fourth division, that everything have to fall into place. You're at least a part of the conversation. But right now, I guess what frustrates me at times is that we have a very exclusive game. This game's for everybody, but inclusive game. And we've created an exclusive type of structure here in this country. And that's what I think needs to change for this game to really explode in this country.
Our league's exclusive, man. You want a special league. Not anybody can join it, you know?
94 teams. 94 teams between MLS, USL Championship, USL League One.
You should get like a yellow card. Do we have cards? Can we give cards out, or like the sin bin where you mute them for 2 minutes if you said something like this?
People would love that. We would. I think our button would break trying to mute Charlie as much as we possibly can.
I was like, man, can I trigger Jimmy right now or Jesse? Catch a bass here. Largemouth bass.
All right, so let's close it out with some notable midweek fixtures, and then we're going to get into your CONCACAF Champions Cup predictions from you two in particular. We'll go with Friday, and then we'll get back into the midweek ones. But Friday, Venezia versus Cremonese is going to be a very big one. Actually, we'll just get right into the midweek fixtures. That seems a little bit cooler. So let's we got Preston taking on Leicester City. Leicester City are close to clinching the championship. They've already been promoted.
Clinched.
They clinched into the Premier League, but to win the championship is something different.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Pachuca taking on Club America. That's 1-1 after leg one. Coventry is taking on Ipswich. That's a big one for Ipswich. They are fighting with Leeds.
And for Leeds.
A big one. Coventry could help out Leeds a lot by getting a result there. Catanzaro is taking on Venezia. That's midweek. And as I mentioned, Venezia then plays 2 days later versus Cremonese. So the big week for Tanner Tessman and Gianluca Busio. And then Monterrey taking on the Crew. The Crew doing the business in leg one. Little disappointed they didn't get more goals because they might need them as they head down to Mexico for leg 2 of the semifinal of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Let's get some predictions on those two games, though. Jesse, I'll come to you first. Do you think Columbus has enough to go down into Mexico, into a very tough location, and get a result to book their ticket to the final?
No way.
He said no. He gave us the dramatic pause and said no.
I like everything about Columbus, and they've given themselves such a good chance, right? And there's nothing not to like about everything that they're doing, but I just think it's a big task to go down there.
Patrick Schulte, recent guest, going to stand on his head and make some saves.
Hope I'm wrong.
How about Pachuca, Club America? Who do you think America?
Club America.
Yeah. Get some quality.
Club America, Monterrey.
Okay, Charlie, who do you like getting into the final? What do you got for me? Hopefully something different.
Don't doubt Wilfred Nazi. He's gonna pull it off. He's got to pull it off. I think Columbus can get it done. It's gonna be extremely difficult. It's not gonna be they're gonna have to be defending a lot more than they did in that first leg. I can tell you that, because it felt like Monterrey were like, all right, let's just get that one goal. We'll keep it close, and then we're gonna blow them away at home. It felt that's the way they were trying to play in this one. It's almost like they have to play perfect. Patrick Schulte definitely can't make any mistakes playing out of the back. So yeah, I think the Crew can win this game. I'm not going to sit here and say no way Monterrey is going to absolutely hand it to them, but I think it'll be competitive for sure. In the other leg,
take Pachuca. Go ahead.
Why not? Chuck, I'm going to go with Club America because we had American International Alex Sendejas score in leg 1. We'll see if you can have some magic again to book America's
I'm not
ticket
going Pachuca.
Okay, we're all going Club America in that one.
Yeah.
I like Columbus Crew as well. I'm going with my hardest working team in America.
Let's
Have
go.
the best logo. They should have changed their logo. Should have kept the old one or bring it back, please. I want to see more of
Jesse
that.
couldn't do it. He's got his allegiance to the Chicago Fire.
We'll see, though. We'll see. That's true.
Bulls.
Good point.
And the Bulls.
Yeah, Red Bulls and
there's some bias.
It's just bias.
And then FC Cincinnati's former player Brandon Vasquez plays for Monterrey now. Maybe he doesn't want the Columbus Crew. Wants to get some revenge after the Crew knocked out Cincinnati in the playoffs last year. But yeah, it should be some great games. We hope that you guys enjoy them. A couple reminders for everybody before we let you go. Make sure to follow Call It What You Want wherever you get your podcasts. That would be awesome. Take a few seconds to leave us a rating. That would be even more awesome. If you're on Apple Podcasts, a review. That means writing down some really special
5
words
stars,
about
please.
us. And catch us on the CBS Sports Golazo Network. That would be awesome. And then on YouTube, make sure to join us next week live right here. Once again, we're going live for you on Monday at 11 a.m.
From
Eastern. It should be a lot of fun.
Toronto.
That's right. Hey, have a great week, everybody. We appreciate your support. It's great to be back live again. Later.
Peace.